Good evening. Welcome again to another episode of the Illini Cast. This is going to be dropping, I believe, Friday morning. We had a fun episode yesterday with Jeffrey from Only Talk Sports where we did kind of a mini preview of the Illinois and Indiana football game. We're going to go a little bit more in depth today. We're going to talk to the LEO podcast, fellow partner of the Big Banter Network. Before we get started there, though, I just wanted to say, please, if you don't mind, our subscriber base is growing little by little every single day. For small shows like us, that matters a lot. So if you don't mind, if you're watching this, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It helps with the whole YouTube algorithms, and it kind of shows us that what we're doing is kind of worth it, and we're not doing it for nobody. I want to kick off talking about Illinois' victory. The men's basketball team came out on Monday with started off a little slow, and then Gibbs-Lawhorn came in and kind of turned things around for us. He was kind of the star of the show. I think when he entered the game, we were down 11-4. He came in, left with 18 points, had an amazing post-game interview where he roasted his own father. So I can already tell he's going to be a personal favorite of mine. There's not much to say about the game. Again, Illinois had a slow start, but I think at some point they realized that they're the much stronger team. They kind of took over. Their talent took over Eastern Illinois. Terrence Shannon had a wonderful game himself. The big story coming out of the opener was those who are watching kind of noticed that Sincere Harris never got onto the court. And folks were kind of wondering why. And Brad Underwood actually touched on it after the game, saying that Sincere had come to the coaches before the game and said that he wanted to redshirt. Now, I tweeted something along the lines of not liking the vibes of that decision, and I got some flack for it, but I just want to, explain myself that I really like Sincere Harris. He was one of my 2 or 3 favorite players on the team last year, and I love that grindy defensive specialist. That type of player is always my favorite on any team. I watch the Bulls. I love Alex Caruso. Those type of players, like pure energy. So this wasn't a shot at Sincere by any stretch. It's just kind of recognizing modern day college basketball. The fact that the coaches didn't really know about it until after the Kansas game kind of tells me that this wasn't in their plans at all. They were blindsided by this. Luke Goody went on the Tay and Piper show, and he talked about how he and the team found out just on the court during practice right before the Eastern Illinois game even started. So it's kind of a decision that Sincere Harris made alone. Maybe with his family, with his close friends. I'm just puzzled in today's day and age. Now, let me say it a different way. If this happened 10, 15 years ago, this would make a lot of sense. Okay, fine. You know what? He can see that he's not going to get much time this year. He's, behind Harmon. He's going to be more of a specialty player who's going to be coming in for 10, 15 minutes a game, maybe. Or when we need a shot, we need some excitement and some energy on the court. That was his role, a minimal role in his second year. He obviously wasn't too excited about that. He wants to play more minutes. He wants to go out there and have a bigger role on the team, and so that's what the claim is on why he wants to sit out. But the claim was last year with Sky Clark that he was in a bad mental state, and that's why he had gone home. Truthfully, as sad as it is, in today's college basketball and college football world, the transfer portal it's a huge weapon to use on both sides. The team side, you can see Brad Underwood using it every offseason now, but also from the player side. There's a chance that Sincere Harris is kind of seeing the writing on the wall. He wants to have a bigger role somewhere. He can take this year as a redshirt year, continue to beef up, get bigger like he claims he wants to, and then maybe transfer over to a team where he thinks he might have a bigger role moving forward. And that's all I was saying. If it really is one of those players that I grew up watching I'm not trying to date myself, but in the 90s where, he's just all about team and he wants to take the year off, get bigger, get stronger. And, so that next year when he comes onto the team during practice, Brad Underwood will see that, no, you know what, Sincere is going to be not only in the main rotation, he's going to be one of my main guys. He's going to be playing 20, 25 minutes a game. Maybe then, and Sincere has 3 years to become one of the best players for the Illini. I just don't know if I see that happening. Someone did make a very good argument to me on Twitter, and so I'm going to admit that, where he had mentioned that Sincere Harris does not have serious, at least American pro NBA potential. This could be a good long-term move in the sense where he can take this year to, again, build up, get stronger, and then in years, well, for him, 3, 4, 5, as he plays a more prominent role, this could be an NIL grab. If he's an important player for our rotation, he might be able to get some more money, especially by his senior year, to the point where all of this may be worth it more. Obviously, by year 5, by year 6, the academics, he might be doing a grad degree at that point. I'm not sure about what Sincere's academic goals are, but in that sense, it kind of makes sense. Like, again, that might be a little more positive thinking than the today's modern college basketball day world deserves. But again, I don't mean any ill will towards Sincere Harris. For me, it's kind of shocking that usually when a player decides to transfer, or sorry, to redshirt, there's a discussion between the coaches and the player. This decision kind of seemingly blindsided Brad Underwood, and so for me, I hope he's in the orange and blue next year. Again, he is one of my favorite players, and he will continue to be one of my favorite players should he continue to don the orange and blue. I'm just unsure and not as confident after seeing the Sky Clark fiasco from last year. And also, I want to clarify, I don't think it's anywhere near the same thing. Sky Clark had his own issues. I'm pretty glad that he's not on the team anymore. Whereas Sincere, I think it might just be being wanting to be on the court type of issue, which I completely respect. It is what it is. Uh, the women's basketball team, they also had a nice resounding victory. It wasn't nearly as close as the men's was in the beginning. It's nice to see Shauna Green, who is arguably already one of the best coach hirings in Illinois athletic history. I think I saw a stat that already, a season and 1 game in, she's at 23 wins for Illinois women's basketball. And the Illinois women's basketball, the 3 seasons prior, had a combined 23 wins. So that tells me, Shauna, she brought in, I think, a top 20 recruit this past early signing day. So the women's basketball team seems to be on an upward trajectory as well. Hopefully it'll continue to build excitement. Obviously, we have Caitlin Clark in our conference. So, there's a lot of attention and eyes in the Big Ten. And it would be nice if Shauna can get the Illinois Fighting Illini kind of in the conversation of teams that people talk about, at least while Caitlin is still in the league, so that we can kind of feed off the energy. But that's it for basketball. We've talked a little men's basketball. We talked a little women's basketball. What we're going to do now is we're going to we're going to talk a little college football with Brandon from the LEO podcast, a fellow partner of the Big Banter Network. Brandon, how are we doing?
I'm doing great, Sonny. How are you?
I'm doing good. I could be a little bit better. I just listened to the Brett Bielema press conference before the show, and I'm kind of worried that our starting quarterback is not going to be playing on Saturday, and that has me a little bit worried.
It's the biggest topics in this game, right?
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, there's one. Well, there's a lot of ways to beat Indiana football, like a lot of ways to beat Indiana football. But the quarterbacks we've struggled with the most are quarterbacks that can get out of the pocket, quarterbacks can run. You look last week, Braden Locke, he got sacked 4 or 5 times, could never get in a groove. Drew Aller could never get in the groove. You look at even Jack Plummer from Louisville, gave him all kind of trouble. But you look at quarterbacks that get out of the pocket, J.J. McCarthy, Kyle McCord, Talia Tagovailoa, all those guys absolutely lit IU up. Lit IU up. So a quarterback with legs is valuable on itself. It is an almost guaranteed victory against Indiana. So I think that should be what both sides are talking about is Luke Altmyer's status.
Okay, see, that's good to know. So you know what? Let's start off, Brendan, from the beginning.
Sure.
Just as I'm sure Indiana fans aren't paying that much close attention to Illinois football outside what you read on the headlines. Let's say there's an Illinois fan base who doesn't quite know what's going on with Indiana
Oh,
football.
it's the entire Illinois fan base.
I'm trying to be nice and cordial here. Um, you guys are 3-6 on the season,
Yeah.
1-5 in the conference. If you
Yeah.
don't mind, give us a Cliff Notes version of what's brought Indiana football here today, coming into Saturday's football game.
Sure. So, well, first, Sonny, we have to thank the entire alumni football program for giving Purdue Ryan Walters. I mean, I think this is going to be a gift for the entire Big Ten. Illinois, or not Illinois, Indiana's towards the bottom. But would you agree that Purdue's probably the worst team in the Big Ten?
I think clearly they're the worst team. Weird stuff is going on with the whole Michigan State, after their
Yeah.
whole fiasco. So their talent level's obviously a lot higher than Purdue's has, but
Yeah.
Purdue's had a pretty tough schedule, and not that I'm going to be shedding any tears. Like we're kind of just like you guys share a hatred. We share a newfound rivalry with that program. So the worst they do, I'm not going to sit here and cry for them.
There we go. No, love hearing that. And yeah, so speaking of how Indiana got here, I'll go ahead and answer your question finally. Um, 3-6. It looks bad, Sonny. It looks really bad until you found out 4 of their 6 losses are to a top 11 teams. I mean,
Wow.
they have lost to Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, and Louisville, who's actually 11th in the country, who plays Virginia this weekend, which is an automatic W. So Louisville will likely be a top 10 team. And then you throw in a surprising Rutgers team and Maryland, who you guys beat. But Maryland's a good team too. So there's not a loss on the Indiana schedule where IU fans thought it was going to be a win. I mean, we thought we could, like going into the season, we thought we could have beat Rutgers at home. I think that's the game that ultimately prevents us from going bowling. I think IU does go 5-7. But Rutgers is a good team this year. I don't think anyone would suggest otherwise. So you look at 3-6 on paper, it looks bad. But then you actually look at it a little bit more and you're like, who is IU supposed to beat? They've beat everyone that they've supposed to beat this year, which makes this game super interesting because and we'll get into it, but there's only one time Tom Allen is successful, and that's when his backup is against the wall. That's it. That if the IU team has any sort of expectations or anything, it's all the rah rah yay yay cheerleader thing. It doesn't work. It doesn't work unless their backs are up against the wall, which they are at the moment because they lose one more game and it's the dream is dead.
I mean, you got 3 games left. Losing one more game is a pretty decent possibility. Whether it be the Saturday or the following week or the week after.
If it's not this Saturday, it won't happen. They won't lose to Michigan State at home. There's no way. And then they won't lose to Purdue, who we agreed was the worst team. So, this for IU, this game is massive, absolutely massive, because they'll be favorites going into the next 2 games. They're obviously a 6.5 point favorite in this game.
Dog.
6.5 point dog in this game. We'll get into it a little bit more, but this game is kind of everything for the Indiana football Hoosiers.
Which is what makes this game so important for both our teams.
Yeah.
Illinois, seemed like they were dead underwater a couple weeks ago as well. But then we turned around, we surprised everyone with what was a pretty dominant win over Maryland. who at the time was rolling. Yeah, they had just come off the loss to Ohio State, but at the time I think they were like 5-1. The following week we were, I want to say we were dominating Wisconsin for basically 3 quarters, and then early in the fourth, Johnny Newton got called for a questionable helmet to helmet, and he got ejected from the game. And then Wisconsin reeled off 18 straight points and snuck by with the victory. I'm not making excuses. You still got to win that game, but 3 of those quarters, Illinois was again playing like the team that me and Austin thought they would play like.
Yep.
The Minnesota game was a very good back and forth game. Minnesota's obviously a contending team in the West. And, for them, for a game at the end to work in our favor, with Luke going down, with John Paddock coming in and having the John Paddock drive, it was super exciting for us to see. And, even if we had lost that game, it wasn't a matter of us playing poorly. Right now, we're talking about, the losses that Indiana had are games that they should have lost. Illinois is kicking themselves in the back right now because we are a better team. We lost to Purdue, who we're just talking about right now. We were favored to win that game, and Purdue just went on an offensive onslaught on us in the second half, and it was one of the more frustrating feelings I've had as an Illinois football fan. If you listen to our show post game, Austin and I just sound super depressed, and Austin was saying like he doesn't think that we're going to win another game the rest of the season, and I'm like, okay, I don't think it's going to be that bad, but things were pretty bad. Then we played Nebraska on Friday night in front of everybody, and Nebraska played poorly, and we played even more poorly. Talent-wise, I think we're a better team than both of those. So those are 2 wins that we thought we would have in the bag right now that we gave up. So that's what made that Maryland game so important for us, because we didn't think we'd be able to travel to Maryland and sneak out a victory against a team that was looking very promising. And, obviously last week, we go to Minnesota and, win a road game. And, Brett, I should have known Brett is 9-0 against Minnesota in his career. And now that makes it 10-0. So that's nice because, it's always, I don't know your opinions on PJ Fleck, but
Clown.
I feel like
Absolute
if he's
clown.
not your coach, exactly. If he's not your coach, that's exactly how you feel like. So for us, it's, we're kind of, as you said, we have you guys this week. We have Iowa the following week in Iowa City. And then the last game of the season is going to be against Northwestern, which we were hoping would be a cakewalk early in the year with all the hassle that they're dealing with the Pat Fitzgerald stuff. But it doesn't look like it. They look like a pretty sound, solid team. So for me now, it's, this game is so important because to get to 5 gives us a little breathing room if we do lose to Iowa. And, again, you and I, we're kind of in the same position here. You talked about Tom Allen.
Yeah.
I know he's got a big buyout, which may save him this year, but what are your overall opinions on him, whether his career here or what he's kind of been doing, your mood on him today?
So, how time changes things so much. So, LEO stands for Love Everyone. That was the mantra that he brought to the Indiana football program after the absolute toxic culture that existed under Kevin Wilson. Kevin Wilson is a brilliant offensive mind, but he is the opposite of a player's coach. He can wear on players. So it was so nice to have Tom Allen come and completely change the culture. I bought into it. Michael bought into it. We obviously named the podcast after his mantra. Here we are 7 years later. Sonny, he's got to go. He's outstayed his welcome. He is, and I heard you talking basketball. He's Tom Crean. Tom Allen did great things. Indiana football was in a tough place with a lot of bad PR. Tom Allen came in, brought us to 4 bowl games, 0-4, but 4 bowl games in 6 years. Got us all the way up to 8th in the country once the COVID year. Have had some huge upset wins, but he's just not a head coach. He's in over his skis for a Minnesota reference. He is a grade A Power 5 defensive coordinator. He just cannot manage a program or manage a game. His coordinator hires have been awful. He's had to fire, I think, his last 3 offensive coordinators. He's had to fire 2 other defensive coordinators. He's tried being the defensive coordinator. I think we've, all in our professional lives, we've had a coworker that's like, he's really good in his role, but there's no way he should be a boss. That's Tom Allen, right? He defensive mind, defensive motivator, players coach, check, check, check. Leader of a program, no. So we are workshopping podcast names. So just to tell everyone that we will no longer be the LEO podcast if Tom Allen is no longer the head coach of Indiana football. And I like Big Banter. They like to get out in front of storylines with sources. So I'll give my Indiana source. The buyout is no problem. The buyout
Oh,
may already
really?
been covered. Yeah. So think about it kind of like a credit card bill or a student loan. That money doesn't have to be paid out right away.
Mm-hmm.
Payment plan already in place to cover the first few years. And as soon as he gets another job, a lot of that money is no longer owed.
Offsets. Oh.
Correct. Not in full, but that big buyout that everyone talks about, that's being broken down into payment plans over years with the idea that he will get hired. I hate putting it on record. This is the first time, not on the LEO podcast, but I'll say it. Tom Allen is not the head coach of Indiana in 2024.
So even if he goes 3-0,
Yep.
they make a bowl game.
Yep.
They win a bowl game for the first time since 1991. Tom Allen's job is done.
It's done.
Wow.
It's done. Also, does anyone think they're going to go 3-0 and win a bowl? I mean, we all hope. Hope's a dangerous drug, my friend.
I don't. I hope you can go 2-1. I prefer to get the win on Saturday.
You're right. And then we can get in that soon. But yeah, Tom has worn out his welcome, not just with the fans, but with the IU brass. The message has grown stale, and it is almost identical to the Tom Crean situation.
So let me kind of piggyback off that question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Austin and I, we've kind of had this sort of conversation that, when Brett Bielema is done here, what kind of coach we want running things here. Whether we want to stick with the traditional Big Ten, good defense, grind it out, that sort of thing, or if we'd be open to, especially with the teams coming in next year, there's a lot of offensive firepower coming into the conference next year. So almost half the teams are going to be more offensive minded, run and gun type of team. So let's say I'm you AD.
Yeah.
You're in charge of hiring a new football coach.
Yeah.
What kind of style, personality, what are you looking for in your hire for Tom Allen's replacement?
So we covered this after we got beat by Maryland. We did not recap the football game at all. There was no need to recap. All we did was preview coaching hires. And I'm going to steal Michael's because it's like I came up with like actual offensive coordinators, and because I want offense. I want all offense all the time. It's the way to make an Indiana program fun. Like Indiana football is really hard to root for already. You don't want to root for a 20-17 win, right? that makes it even worse. So I want offense. So we're going to go the Colorado route, Sonny. We are going to bring in Antoine Randall L. He has bounced around as a wide receivers coach in the college ranks. He's currently at the Detroit Lions. He has about a decade plus of some coaching experience, not offensive coordinator, not head coaching, but that's all the rage now, right?
Yeah.
Bring in former players, bring in the sexy hire. Let's bring Antoine Randall L, and maybe he stinks. But guess what? It's going to be super fun. It's going to be something to talk about. It's going to put butts in seats. So if you're asking me as AD, this is a horrible name, and it's not what we're it's not what we're going to change our podcast to. But the one that we keep saying now is NIFA, make Indiana fun again. And Antoine Randall L is that answer. And he's expressed interest. He's thrown his hat in the ring before, and it's always been brushed aside because, like, dude, you've never even been a head coach before. Like, how you've never been a coordinator before. But now that we live in a post-prime world, like, why not? Why not bring him in?
And like you said, if nothing else, it would bring a whole lot of electricity and energy into the Indiana football program, which is, I think it's safe to say is kind of lacking at the moment. So,
So
yeah,
bad.
I mean, that makes sense. I'm not sure what your budgetary, where you guys fall. You guys are kind of like Illinois in the sense that we're a little bit more so basketball focused schools.
Yeah.
But so, it's kind of some of the big names may not be available to schools like yours and mine. But yeah, no, so, outside the box, sometimes that's what you need. You need to get people to be excited about playing for Indiana. And what better way than to bring someone in on a recruiting trip and show them highlights of your coach at Indiana, doing this, doing that, and, the energy that the program had at the time. So, you know what? I'm not going to lie. I don't hate it.
There we go. I'll take it. I'll
I
take
don't
you
hate
not
it.
hating it.
Speaking of things that Indiana fans did hate for a while, their offense had a change early in the year. Walt Bell was let go, and Rod Carey was brought in from an analyst role, former head coach at Northern Illinois and Temple. And you've had some pretty competitive games since the change. What's the difference?
Well, it's really two main things. We stopped running the triple option because it's not 1930s anymore. And we got Jalen Lucas out of the backfield trying to be a running back. And we've used the middle of the field, which has been huge. Walt Bell seemed absolutely adverse to throwing the ball farther than 10 yards. So we're getting Jalen Lucas on the outside. We're running it a little bit more conventionally, and we're throwing the ball downfield. Like, none of that is novel concepts. Like, all of that is duh. That's how bad Walt Bell was. I'm originally from Pittsburgh, huge Pittsburgh fan. So all of September, I had to go through Matt Canada and the Pittsburgh Steelers and Walt Bell and
Maybe
Indiana.
it's you.
There was a lot of drinking that went on, Sonny. I'm not going to lie. There a lot of sad drinking, going on when I was watching Matt Canada and Walt Bell offense. So again, Rock Carey isn't doing anything different or not doing anything new, creative, trick plays. He's just doing what every offensive coordinator should do and call plays that have a higher success rate and an easier thing to do, which is what you have to do when you have a freshman quarterback. It's make things easy. Seriously, keep it simple, and that's what he's done. And IU's reaped the benefits from it. Their offense in the last 8 quarters has looked really well.
Someone else who's looked really well. I was watching a little tape of you guys on the Big Banter Networks. 60-minute games. Yeah. What's his name? Aaron Casey.
Aaron Casey.
Aaron Casey. Your
4-4.
linebacker.
Yeah.
Man, this guy is good. And then I saw, he won Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week. He doesn't get as much pub because, again, he plays for Indiana football.
Right.
But, his stats are right up there with all the best players in the conference on the defensive side. Tell me a little bit about him and what exactly I'm going to be scared for when Illinois is on offense.
Well, I don't know if this scares you or not, but the fun fact is he's a Canadian 6-year unranked player. Like, this guy has earned everything. He didn't start playing football until very late. He didn't play at a high level in Canada. Came to Indiana. I think technically he was a 2-star, but like almost every service had him unranked.
That's like Devin Weatherspoon for us, who was drafted last year.
Yeah.
I think one service had him as a 2-star, but for the most part, I think they only did it because he signed on so late. And so they're like, oh, he signed with the Power 5 team. We got to assign him some sort of rating. But sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. Witherspoon might win Defensive Player of the Year too, right? Obviously on rookie
Yep.
defense. But yeah, so Aaron Casey has earned everything he's gotten. He's put in his time, sat behind some really good players. Cam Jones was a beast. He was an all Big Ten player. He learned from Tigray Scales, who was kind of bounced around practice squads in the NFL. He's learned from really good players, waited his turn, and then the last season and a half, he's just been a maniac. He's the heart and soul of this defense. He is kind of Tom Crean in college player form. Like, he is just hyped all the time. Like, I have no idea how you have that much energy all the time. He's hard not to root for because he's everything that, Indiana can sell in recruiting, right? Like, come here, we'll develop you. You can turn into this, which is what IU has to do in recruiting, right? We're not competing with the Ohio States and the Notre Dames of the world. So he's a great story. He's a great player, and he's going to get himself on an all Big Ten team. I don't think he has the athleticism, unfortunately, to be an NFL player, but I think he could be a practice squad player for a few years just because of his high motor. Athletically, he's not going to blow you off the chart or blow you out of the water. But he plays really hard, is always in the right place, and he's going to play 4 quarters for sure.
Hearing all that, now I'm hoping Luke Altmyer does play all 4 quarters. It's gonna be tricky. So I'm just kidding. We kind of talked about it.
Paddock should be worried because he blew up Braden Locke. Braden Locke, I think he sacked him twice, pressured him, I think two and a half times. So that's 4. I think he had 4.5 total pressures and sacks. Braden Locke could not get away from Aaron Casey, and it seemed to always happen on 3rd down. I think if you would ask Luke Fickell what changed the game, it was Aaron Casey on 3rd down. That was really the difference. So for Illini fans, that's what I would watch. If it's 3rd and long, Aaron Casey's coming.
And that makes me super nervous. Like, I'm not trying to rain on the Paddock parade. Obviously, he had a drive that he's going to remember for the rest of his life. I don't know about if you know about his like familial history with the university, but he played earlier in the season as well, and he didn't look nearly as impressive. He's a little undersized. He played for Ball State. He doesn't have a scholarship. He was a nice guy to have, but there's a clear difference when Luke Altmyer is on the field. Like, in my opinion, Luke is the best quarterback in the Big Ten West. He's only getting better. People talk a lot about his turnovers, and yeah, he does have a turnover here and there, but a lot of those turnover numbers are kind of juiced up because of that Penn State game that everybody saw, where he had 4 interceptions, and it was like his 6th or 7th start of his college career playing at Penn State. He just had a bad game. And you know what? That's going to happen for young kids. He's not, one of those super 5-star studs that come in and all of a sudden look like they're going to be the number 1 pick in the draft. There's going to be growing pains. And so Luke is key for us moving forward, just to, because Illinois has never had a good quarterback. We haven't had that. You're talking about 10, 15 years ago in Nathan Shieldhouse. You're talking about Juice Williams, like guys who I grew up watching, who, the recruits in today's age, they have no idea who they are. So for us to have a guy now who can kind of grow with the program, he's just a redshirt sophomore. He has 2, if not 3 years left with the program. We're really excited to see a guy that can win the game with his arm, as opposed to usually all we have is are hoping for is a quarterback who can't lose the game for us.
Yep.
But speaking of the future, we talked about this before. The Big Ten's got 4 newcomers coming in next year. Yeah, USC, Oregon, Washington, and who am I missing?
UCLA? Did you say UCLA?
UCLA. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, UCLA. Yeah. That's right. And our conference is getting pretty more top heavy, and that usually doesn't sound very well for the teams on the bottom tiers. Let's just be frank, such as yours and mine when it comes to football. How do you see Indiana fitting in the future Big Ten? And let's just say in your best years, like what do you think is the ceiling of your football program?
So how do I say this without offending? This is definitely going to offend. I think the Big Ten West is going to have a reality check. I think Rutgers, Maryland, and IU rejoices because it can't get harder than playing in the Big Ten East. IU has had a top 15 difficult schedule the last 3 years. I just named 4 top 10 teams, top 11, that they've played this season.
Yeah.
So, am I worried about Oregon and USC and Washington and UCLA? No, because guess what? It can only be equal to what we're playing now. Because I think they've already released the 24 and 25 schedule, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
It is already immensely easier than what the last 3 years were. So, I probably talked a little too much on that one, but yeah, all Indiana fans, all like 7 of us, are all super happy with getting out of the Big Ten East. Ceiling, honestly, that COVID year was amazing. Nobody's expecting a New Year's 6 and a top 10 team. We're not expecting that. The ceiling should be Iowa. 8-4 every year. 6-6 should be the standard. If you're asking me, which is why I do these collaboration shows and not Michael, give me a bowl game every other year. Like every other year, give me a bowl game. I'm happy with that. Like 8-4 is the ceiling, 6-6 is the standard. Realistic, every other year bowl game. I think every Indiana fan would sign in blood for that.
You guys are it's a little more difficult for you guys compared to us at Illinois because you have, 3 prominent programs in that state. We have Northwestern, who's our rival, but historically, Northwestern isn't necessarily that dominant in football. Obviously they had a period with Pat Fitzgerald where they did fantastic, but we'll see where they are moving forward. But yeah, I've kind of said the same thing. The Iowas, the Wisconsins, that's kind of our hope. That's all we want to be. We want to be able to go in on Saturdays and more often than not think that we have a chance of winning.
Yep.
Be the favorite in the game. It's not going to happen every week, and I know it's not going to happen most of the time against the big teams like Ohio State, Michigan's, USC. But having a fighting chance every now and then, that's kind of all we're looking for ourselves. But
yeah.
So okay, so Brendan, any final predictions for Saturday? Have you made yours yet?
I have. Oh, of course I have. I got one question for you.
Sure.
And this is my last dagger, I promise.
Okay.
How is this Illinois team, if Paddock plays, how is this Illinois team any different than the team Indiana played last week in Wisconsin? The reason I ask that, it's a backup quarterback with a team that wants to run, with a great wide receiver and a good defense. Would you is there anything wrong with that statement?
No. I mean, if Paddock is the one under center, you're exactly right.
And Indiana just dominated for 4 quarters, that Wisconsin team. You guys dominated for 3 quarters, so I'm not giving a ringing endorsement of Wisconsin, but the game was never close against Wisconsin.
I guess one other difference is you guys are at home.
Correct.
Right? Against Wisconsin, whereas we're at home this time.
Yeah.
But, I don't disagree with you. I'll just get mine out of the way. I did a mini preview for the game yesterday, and I had predicted 24-13 Illinois, mainly on the grounds that we were going to be at home.
Yeah.
And, we kind of owe you guys one. I think you guys have won like 4 straight against us. So it's like, all right, we got to turn things around at some point. But after watching this whole Brett Bielema interview, I'm getting a little less optimistic, and I'm holding all rights to be able to change my prediction pre-kickoff once I finally see who's going to be under center.
Yeah, so like you, I have 2 predictions, right? If Altmyer plays, I think it's 27-17 Illinois. The over-under is 44, so that hits the over-under perfectly. If Altmyer plays, and I think Vegas is thinking Altmyer is going to play because those lines came out early in the week before Brett's press conference. I don't think Altmyer plays. I think Paddock plays, and you're right. This game is at home. Vegas always gives 3 points to the home team. So if Paddock plays, give me 20-17 IU and the streak continues. Like I started off with this, it's all on Altmyer. If Altmyer plays, I think Illinois wins comfortably. If I think Paddock plays, I think it's very, very tight, and Illinois should be pretty concerned.
I think most of us are already pretty concerned. As soon as the lines came out, I think I jumped on Indiana. I think I got them at plus 210. I do
Yeah.
this thing called happiness hedges, where this
Yeah.
way I make, especially if I get plus money on the opposition.
Yeah.
If Illinois loses, at least I get paid to cry. That's kind of been my theory behind it. But
Yeah.
hopefully that won't be the case on Saturday. Brandon, I really wanted to thank you for coming on. I know this was kind of last minute, but we don't really get a chance to play each other very often. And I don't know. I think it's going to be like once every third year or something like that. Once the schedules,
Yeah.
the new schedules with the new teams coming in next year. So hopefully, we'll have a chance to collaborate again. Do me a favor. Can you let my viewers know where to find you?
Yeah. So we're everywhere you can find your podcast. We're on the Android store, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple, we're on SoundCloud at LEO Podcast. That's also where we're at on
For now.
Twitter. Uh for now. Yeah, at LEO Podcast for now. Give that about 8 more weeks. But we're not on Facebook, we're not on any of that. We're not on YouTube. I know a lot of people do video. We're just a bunch of old guys that talk into a mic. So thank you so much, Sonny, for having me on. It's been a blast, and I think Saturday should be a sneaky good game. I think we're going to be in for a good one.
I think so too, especially with as we kind of talked about, both teams are desperately counting on Saturday as a win for their bowl probabilities. Indiana flat out needs it, whereas we need it so that there's not so much pressure going into Iowa, which is not a favorable place to play for anybody. But I wish you luck for every game outside Saturday.
I would look really smart if we lost this game and then won the next two. I said 5-7, so it's
And I'd be
like
happy with it.
I'm
Go
sure
five
you
and
would.
seven. I got nothing against Indiana in football, at least. Your basketball program and
That's
ours.
another conversation.
Yeah, they got some history together. But once again, Brandon, thank you so much for joining me today. Let you know where to find him. I'll put all his information in the comment section of this video. And good luck to the Illini. Hopefully, Luke Altmyer plays, and I like his 27-17 prediction. I'll take my 24-13.
All right. See you, Sonny.
All right, Brandon. Take care.